To you, Foreign Minister.
Well, thank you. Well, as you know, I'm not very good at initial remarks and openings, so I will just start by saying that Greece has a very principled foreign policy, and that's that. Principled means we act according to international law and international law of the sea. And what we're trying to do is create an understanding between all countries, not just of our region, but even far from our region, according to these principles. And I have to say also that we believe we have been quite successful, not because we are competent or because we can charm our friends around the world, but because this is where humanity goes, to a rules-based world order. So our humble ambition is to serve this purpose of humanity and to create this understanding among as many countries of the world as possible. That goes for the Balkans, that goes for the Eastern Mediterranean, that goes for the Gulf, and if I may say, even beyond the Gulf, the Indo-Pacific Ocean and all the oceans of the world. Please kindly do not forget that Greece is the biggest commercial maritime power in the world. The Greek-owned fleet is the Greek-owned fleet is the biggest in the world. So we have a huge interest in freedom of navigation. Thank you so much, and I'm so happy to be in this round table with Averov and with David. I will never forget, and I would like to repeat that, I will never in my life forget David's crucial support in my effort against the Golden Dawn in the difficult years 2012, 2013, 2014. I will always remember to thank him in public for his support.
Thank you very much. Could I ask you to elaborate a little bit, perhaps, before we move on to our other panelists, on the state of play, really, in the Eastern Med. So, here a year ago, tensions were very high at our conference. I remember there was a build-up of concern, and then it actually came to physical clash in the Eastern Mediterranean. Now we've moved on to a period where the tensions are lower, some degree of dialogue has been taking place. Where do things stand at the moment, and how do you see this developing?
Well, thank you for asking me. First of all, I will share your conclusion that the tensions, luckily this year, are not at the level that were last year. My wife always reminds me that we didn't have any vacation the last 2 years, and that had to do a lot with the situation in the Mediterranean. Having said that, and in continuation of my initial remarks, I have to say that the huge number of countries of our region, of the Eastern Mediterranean, are sharing our principles and our understanding that we should go by the international law and the international law of the sea. Unfortunately, there's a minority of one, the one being Turkey, that does not, for its own reasons, subscribe to those principles. And although we're facing less tension, I'm sorry to say that I have not seen tangible evidence of Turkey changing not just its behavior, but its beliefs. Turkey subscribing to international law, subscribing to the international law of the sea, subscribing to UNCLOS. And we have one benchmark in front of us to see the level of tensions in our overall region, and that is July the 20th. President Erdogan's commemoration of the invasion in Cyprus and of the occupation of the northern part of the Republic of Cyprus. So what will happen remains to be seen, yet if I'm allowed to say, I hope that this year, after 2 years, I may have some vacation in August. But again, we'll see.
What about stretching beyond the Eastern Mediterranean and you mentioned freedom of navigation generally, and of course one area of the world that where this increasingly comes to the fore is in Asia and with respect to the Taiwan Straits, and various of Greece's allies are active in asserting those rights of freedom of navigation vis-à-vis China. Is this something that Greece, with this, as you say, largest commercial fleet in the world, that Greece takes an interest in and is involved in any sense by proxy, or how do you view these operations?
Well, let us be frank. We know our size. Greece is an 11 million country, a member of the European Union, but a small size country. That's what we are. We don't overstretch, we don't punch above our weight. Having said that, for obvious reason, we have a big interest in freedom of navigation. And UNCLOS and the application of UNCLOS is something we discuss with our friends all over the world. Just a week ago, Dr. Jaishankar, the Indian foreign minister, was in Athens for 2 days, and we were able to elaborate on this. And I'm looking forward to visiting Indonesia, to visiting Australia, to visiting Japan, and again elaborate on the issues of the freedom of navigation. For Greece, things is not on a la carte basis. We follow a principled foreign policy, and our principles go according to international law. UNCLOS is international law. So we have a very good understanding with all countries of the world, regardless of sides, that have subscribed to UNCLOS or the principles of UNCLOS. And I have to say I was extremely happy that something like 3 weeks ago, Secretary Blinken has said openly, has encouraged openly all countries to subscribe to UNCLOS, even his own country, because as you know, the United States, although they accept the principles of UNCLOS, are not a subscriber to UNCLOS. On the other hand, the European Union has subscribed to UNCLOS, not just the member state, but the European Union itself. So UNCLOS is a part of the European acquis. So, principles. The answer is principles, Daniel, not an a la carte foreign policy. And principles is international law of the sea, that is UNCLOS.
Nikos Dendias, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this vision for a different sort of regional cooperation and how practical it is over that sort of 10-year time horizon, 10, 15-year time horizon that we heard.
I have to say, we're at the lucky point in time where one cannot call that daydreaming. I think it's something that is clearly doable, and if I have to put my money, I would put it on happening versus not happening. And I have to say, the signs are there already of this kind of understanding and of elan of these countries towards a common future. It's clearly understandable. And I'm so happy that David clearly mentioned that human mind is the future versus, for example, hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons, of course, are very important for humanity. They still provide, together with lignite, a very important amount of the energy we consume. But one thing is clear, this is not the future. This is clearly the past. And if you allow me, Daniel, to say something I read in The Economist, the humanity didn't went through Stone Age to a different age because we ran out of stone, but because the time has come to move to another age. And it's clear now that energy will be produced in a friendly environmental way in the future if we want to survive. So this new approach and the fact that, let's be honest, this region, this overall region is privileged. We have sun and we have wind. So, and we have huge areas in which we could put solar panels in order to create this energy and be able to have energy that is cheaper, which will advance our economies, not just the Greek economies, but the economies of the Balkans and the economies of the European Union. So I think we can look forward to a much better future, provided that societies arrive to a common understanding, provided that we understand clearly that the approach of the 19th century, the sort of gunboat diplomacy, the spheres of influence as perceived in the 19th century have no role to play in the 21st century. And I would like to say it clearly in black and white, so it's been heard all around. we don't see Turkey as something that cannot belong to this architecture. We would like Turkey to belong to this architecture, to subscribe to this new approach. But they have to tell us, they have to make up their minds. And I'm sure, and I'm happy to report it, that there's an elements in the Turkish society that look towards such an approach. And we should encourage those elements clearly, elements that believe to democracy, to Western values, to moving to the 21st century versus the gun diplomacy of the 19th century. So, I don't know if we're going to be here. Probably we're not going to be here. And anyway, I'm not going to be in my present capacity. But I believe that sooner than later, in an economist roundtable, the new reality presented by David will be the reality analyzed by those future guys that probably you will be asking questions.
Well, we have an outbreak of optimism on this panel. Let's see if there are questions in the room. Would anybody like to ask a question about the region and this vision that we've just heard, or any other questions of our panelists?
Yes, ήθελα να κάνω μια ερώτηση στον κύριο Υπουργό. Επειδή μιλάμε για ασφάλεια στην περιοχή αυτή, αλλά καμιά φορά χρειάζονται και λίγο πιο σκληροί μέθοδοι, όπως ας πούμε κυρώσεις προς την Τουρκία. Το γεγονός ότι αυτή τη στιγμή η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση μέχρι σήμερα δεν έχει επιβάλει πραγματικά αυστηρές κυρώσεις και επιπλέον θα την χρηματοδοτήσει με 5 δις, πιστεύετε ότι θα συμβάλλει ώστε να συμμορφωθεί η Τουρκία? Ευχαριστώ.
Σας ευχαριστώ για την ερώτηση. Θέλω να είμαι σαφής. Η Ελλάδα πίστευε και πιστεύει ως προς την Τουρκία σε μια διπλή προσέγγιση. Σε μια προσέγγιση καταρχήν που παρέχει κίνητρα στην Τουρκία να κινηθεί προς την κατεύθυνση, την επιθυμητή, την κατεύθυνση που θα θέλαμε, και την περιέγραψα προηγουμένως, την δημοκρατικές αξίες, την προστασία των ανθρωπίνων δικαιωμάτων, το σεβασμό του διεθνούς δικαίου και του διεθνούς δικαίου της θάλασσας, και από την άλλη μια σαφή υπόμνηση ότι αν αυτό δεν συμβεί, από εκεί και πέρα η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση πρέπει να λάβει μέτρα. Θα συμφωνήσω μαζί σας ότι η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση, ή για να είμαι ακριβέστερος, μερικά κράτη στην Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση, όχι με κανένα τρόπο η πλειοψηφία των κρατών της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης, ήταν διστακτικά στο να ακολουθήσουν με γενναιότητα και με σαφήνεια αυτή την κατεύθυνση. Όμως οφείλω να πω ότι σαν κοινός τόπος φτάσαμε σε ένα επίπεδο κατανόησης. Και νομίζω ότι έγινε σαφές και στην τουρκική πλευρά ότι αν συνεχίσει την λογική και τις ενέργειες του περασμένου χρόνου, είτε του Μαρτίου-Φεβρουαρίου στο μεταναστευτικό, είτε του Αυγούστου και των άλλων μηνών στην Ανατολική Μεσόγειο, από εκεί και πέρα οι κυρώσεις είναι το μόνο μέτρο που η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση έχει στη διάθεσή της και θα το επιβάλλει. Και θα ήθελα να πω επίσης ότι εγώ ίδιος έχω ασκήσει πολλές φορές κριτική στην Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση. Η κυβέρνηση Μητσοτάκη όμως έχει μια έντονα φιλοευρωπαϊκή αντίληψη. Και η έντονα αυτή φιλοευρωπαϊκή αντίληψη περιλαμβάνει την κατανόηση ότι η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση είναι ένα τεράστιο ιστορικό εγχείρημα, το οποίο είναι ακόμη σε νεαρά βήματα. Θέλουμε καιρό για να ολοκληρώσουμε αυτό το τεράστιο εγχείρημα το οποίο περιγράφει προηγουμένως. Άρα λοιπόν, εδώ είναι κάτι στο οποίο ελπίζουμε. Ελπίζουμε η Τουρκία να κάνει την ορθή επιλογή. Και όπως είπε και ο Αβέροφ προηγουμένως, υπάρχει και μια τεράστια θέληση από την πλευρά και της ελληνοκυπριακής κοινότητας, απλώνοντας ένα χέρι φιλίας προς την τουρκοκυπριακή κοινότητα, ώστε να δημιουργήσουμε μια ενωμένη Κύπρο που θα έχει παράλληλα τεράστιες ευεργετικές συνέπειες για την ευρύτερη περιοχή μας. Ως προς τα κονδύλια του μεταναστευτικού, θέλω και εδώ να σας είμαι σαφής. Η Ελλάδα, ακόμα και τη χειρότερη στιγμή των ελληνοτουρκικών σχέσεων, δεν εμπόδισε την ενίσχυση με κονδύλια, όχι της Τουρκίας ως κράτος, αλλά των δυστυχισμένων ανθρώπων που χρειαζόντουσαν την προστασία της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης, μέσω μη κυβερνητικών οργανώσεων. Η Ελλάδα είναι μια χώρα που λειτουργεί όχι επί τη βάση του ευκαιριακού της συμφέροντος ή της λογικής της πίεσης, αλλά επί τη βάση των αρχών της. Η προστασία της δυστυχίας και των ανθρώπων που έχουν ανάγκη βοήθειας είναι μέσα στο DNA της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Δεν είμαστε εμείς αυτοί που θα εμποδίσουμε, είμαστε αυτοί που θα ενθαρρύνουμε αυτή την προσέγγιση και τη βοήθεια.
The question is, we have a new American administration, and it's but not so new that we can't already see some of the outlines of the policies of the Biden administration and of Antony Blinken as Secretary of State. So I'm wondering whether you can comment on what you would expect from the Biden administration in this region, whether it's a continuity of the Trump administration policies or whether you see changes in direction with the Biden administration. Perhaps I turn to you, Foreign Minister, in the first instance.
Well, thank you, Daniel. For us, it's quite clear. We wish and we want more American presence in the region. Having said that, for reasons of justice, I would mention that Secretary Pompeo of the Trump administration was quite attentive on this region. I don't remember how many times I have met him during the 18 months that we were both in office. But having said that, we need more United States, not less United States. We need more United States in the Balkans because there are issues that need to be resolved. It's the Serbia-Kosovo thing, also the situation in Bosnia-Herzegovina, which, if I may allow to say, it's something that we should be very careful with. The situation is much worse than perfect, and it does not catch maybe the first page of the newspapers, but we should not allow it to come to the first page of the newspapers. Then is the Palestinian issue, in which on the Balkans, let me say, the European Union and the present administration work hand in hand together. It's the Palestinian problem in which an American initiative is badly needed. We should not wait for a new problem being manifested as we had a few weeks ago, and then try to do something. America has the prime role in the Middle East and needs to exercise that role. And also we need the American presence in the overall region. I think the United States is the one party, the one country in the world that could explain to Turkey that human rights and rule of law is the way forward, the way that would create benefit for all. And if you allow me to say, for the overall region, sometimes the United States plays more than a role of a superpower. They're being perceived as both a country and an ideal. So the American presence is needed and wanted in the overall region, including the Gulf, and if I may allow to say, even beyond the Gulf. Thank you.